Yep, no, I'm gonna practice my audio clipping. I can go straight in and clip the audio on my hello.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen?
There you go, that's the intro.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna launch into my intro. Hello and welcome to the Scramble Check. I clipped. Hello and welcome to the Scramble Checksum podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kieran, a guy who has recently spent some time at work helping to improve their podcast setup by shifting it away from being recorded on Zoom. And I'm joined by my good friend Ethan, a guy who is far more qualified in areas of audio engineering than me, and sadly works on this much less successful podcast. Ethan, how are you doing?
I am doing incredibly well, and I would like to note, just for the record, that I did get some feedback on early episodes of this podcast this week. It's somewhat poignant, given what you just said.
Okay.
It was from Elijah, my good friend Elijah.
He finally watched it.
Yes, he's listened to the first two episodes, and he said he's very much enjoying them. However, some constructive feedback is the audio levels could use some work. So
audio levels could use some work. There we go. So the you know, I mean, to be fair, half of that's my fault because I would have edited one of those.
Well, I also edited one of them, so you know.
Well, yeah, but I'm the one that clips the intro every single time. So speaking of podcasts, there was a recent first episode in, I wouldn't say a while, but the first episode after the end of a long streak of a certain one show.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember. It was an old. It's on a small channel.
Linus.
Like LinusTechTips.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might not have heard of them.
But yeah, there are. If you're in the tech space, you know, they're kind of a bit part player. You might have seen them, in your recommended at some point, and been intrigued about them. But no, who are we kidding? Yeah, they're back.
Yes, they are. We've
recorded an episode of pure sodium.
Look, guys, I'm not sure if I can apologize for not re-recording last week's episode. I mean, by the time you've got like mine and Kieran's time, you're talking like probably like £5, £6, £7 in value. I'm not sure I can apologize about that when we just make money from. Look,
a bad podcast is a bad podcast, all right? Look, re-recording it is not going to make it better.
We make no qualms about the quality. We're entertainment first.
We're aiming for just getting them done.
Yeah, I mean, and if anybody gets caught up in the crossfire and subsequently goes bankrupt, then I mean, they should get good.
Yeah, just just do it right the first time.
Yeah. So anyway,
and preempt any. No, before we get too salty. So
yeah, okay, let's be serious. Let's actually be serious. I actually do genuinely want to talk about this.
Yeah, what is your take? Because to give anyone some background, if you're just watching, Ethan is a. I don't want to say I want to say like a big fan because now it's almost like there's been.
I feel like fan is not the right word, but I would say
Ethan was a more
supporter,
regular follower of their more recent output. So I've been watching LTT. We probably started watching them around the same time.
Yeah.
But I've not kept up with them as
regularly. I've been watching them pretty much. Like, I've been watching pretty much every video on the main channel, at least, since 2014.
Because I think I got started with them with whole room water cooling.
Yeah, I think that was around about that sort of time.
Yeah, I think that was the video that, was when they first appeared for me and I started watching. But I definitely drifted off, probably a little bit post when they moved to the warehouse.
Yeah.
And then, because I remember I'd occasionally go back and watch a few episodes. And I'd not recognize anyone, so there was definitely big gaps.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your take, dude? Now that they're back?
Firstly, I've just looked it up just to double check, but I'm pretty sure I've gone through the 5 stages of grief with this whole thing.
Wow.
Because genuinely, I know this. There's obviously people who are much bigger victims in some of the stuff that's happened than any of the viewers or followers, long-term supporters. I would definitely say I'm a supporter. I have been a supporter. Of their channel. Like I think I've always been. I think because I've been so kind of invested in their content, I think I've maybe been. I think I maybe, if anything, maybe have a reverse bias that I'm like looking for reasons to drop them almost, because I don't want. I'm so like opposed to
the
being
betrayal
a blind...
is more pronounced because you're like, oh
yeah,
God,
I'm so opposed to being
I
a
bought
blind
your
fanboy.
water bottle.
Yeah, I mean, I am literally drinking water out of their water bottle right now. I'll go into that. But anyway, I'm not even
you
joking.
started a campaign.
It's sat here right now. However, I am quite glad that I bought the stealth one.
Yeah, you started. You burned all your shirts. The water bottle getting melted
actually,
down.
I have actually removed the shirts from my drawers as well. They're currently on my desk.
Waiting to be burned.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I don't think I'm going to get rid of them for now. I'm basically, in summary, I've not made my final judgment yet. But
no.
Okay, so here's where I stand. So, rough timeline of events. Steve from Gamers Nexus released his video on whenever that was. I watched it. It came up in my feed. I don't really watch Gamers Nexus, to be honest. Nothing against them, really, just not quite the level. Like, not really. I'm not really super nerdy about the stuff that they make super nerdy content about.
Ethan doesn't care about tech.
I do.
He just wants to see the novelty project.
But they go very deep dive into like graphics cards, CPUs, etc., etc. And my interest in tech, while I am quite interested in, I like building my own computer and kind of knowing what goes into my computer and researching what parts I'm going to put in my computer. That's more of a kind of I'll get into the nerdy detail when I'm in the process of going towards building a new system.
To be honest, I always find it interesting, like how many views that they get. Not to like disparage their content or anything; it's super high quality. But like, I always find it super surprising. Cause it's like if I wasn't looking to purchase, like a graphics card, I don't really know why I would go and watch like, benchmarks of graphics cards. It's like, that's interesting. I'm not.
I watch. I historically have always watched like, LTT's reviews of like the latest graphics card, and when there's like big deal, something that's a big deal, like I watched quite a lot of reviews of the like Intel Arc, for example, when that came out, and AMD Ryzen when that first came out, and the first generation of RDNA Radeon graphics cards, and big like kind of or hyped up launches to see whether they're actually.
Basically, me and Ethan are just hype. We're just only trend followers. Unless it's a big hype release, we don't care.
No, it's more just like most of the time the industry's just kind of ticking over, and not much. There's not much to really. There's not really much to really be that exciting unless you're actually specifically going, oh, I'm going to upgrade this time round.
Yeah. You're like, wow, this new generation of card is a 10% improvement.
Yeah, but like Intel Arc coming out, significant because it's a third significant player in a third player in discrete graphics for the desktop. That's just not been a thing since the 90s.
That's been a huge player for decades. What do you mean with my Intel built-in graphics?
Yeah, that's not discrete graphics, Kieran.
That's my high quality.
Although I guess technically you could argue that the original integrated graphics was, or original Intel graphics was discrete because it was on the motherboard as opposed to on the CPU. But
yeah, exactly, man. That's where everyone was buying these dedicated graphics cards. The old Intel built-in. Default's the best. That's what I always say. Just go with the standard, and obviously me and Ethan only, we're saying all this, we really only watch LTT for the basic build guide. So like when we come to build a computer, we're like, oh God, where do I put my graphics calculator?
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to put a screw in without watching a video.
No, exactly. So what we do is, it's like, how thick of a layer of thermal compound do I need?
I'll end up fucking slicing through my main artery in my leg or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you're going to put a CPU in and you're like, oh God, how much thermal paste is too much? And then,
which side of the CPU do I put the thermal paste on?
Both.
Both sides, yeah, you've got to get...
like a sandwich.
Which pin do I bend first?
No. You supply. Well, that's the thing. You put enough paste on there, and you can't makes it harder to bend the pin.
Okay, yeah, you've got to pour it in the socket, right, and then mix it round.
Yeah. Give it like you put it on with like a trowel that you'd use to apply plaster.
Oh yeah, really
thicker the better.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
Just the small tubes it comes in. You need like at least 10 or 15 of those.
Yeah. I usually just buy a bucket just to be safe, and then
it's a lot easier, isn't it?
I usually just dunk the entire motherboard and CPU in there just to be safe.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever tried homebrewing it, but mix enough battery from some wallpaper paste. And
it's the best way. Artisan
paste is paste, isn't it?
Yeah, artisan thermal paste. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't have I skimped on my last build. I just bought some toothpaste from Lidl.
Well, yeah, it's the same. Paste is paste, right? It's the same consistency. You just put on the good thick layer of it.
I actually kind of want to see what would happen actually now if you put like a bit of Lidl's own brand Minty Fresh.
I imagine.
I wonder what it would smell like.
Probably not good, right? Because that's gonna get really hot. It's gonna. I don't know what's in toothpaste though. We might have discovered like
paste.
the next Icy Diamond selling those tiny little syringes for like however much they go for.
Yeah.
It's just like toothpaste.
I'm pretty sure you could probably get a toothpaste that's called something like Icy Diamond. That does sound like the kind of thing.
There's like Colgate ones called like Diamond Max and stuff, not Spawn. If you've got a sacrificial
Lidl
PC,
also
you're
not Spawn.
If you've
Sadly.
got a sacrificial
if you want
PC,
to sponsor us, Lidl, hit us up. I would love to get free stuff from your bakery, even though it's already ridiculously cheap.
And also free toothpaste for this build.
Yeah.
If you've got a sacrificial PC, we'll get that done. But yeah, your opinion on the
yes,
things. You've
right.
gone from
Anyway,
watching Gamers Nexus to learn what a computer is.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Right. Let's bring it back to being real. So yeah. So obviously the Gamers Nexus video came out, and I watched it, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I think he's raising some fair points here, and to be honest, I think I personally felt like the quality of the videos had been slipping, and I'd kind of stopped watching every single release a while before the Gamers Nexus video came out, and I was
been disengaging, right?
I had been slowly starting to disengage and just thinking, okay, this isn't quite. Yeah, it's not quite the same. It was starting to feel like it was quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And kind of some of the videos seemed a bit kind of like, what's the point in watching this video? This isn't like the roundup videos and stuff that they do and things like that. Just not.
Or you get like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you get like 10 minutes in and you're like, oh wow, this is like, they're not even. I'm not learning anything. It's almost too janky. It's like almost like janky to the point where they don't care. There's no heart to it. It's like, oh, we haven't got this part. It's not like
it's no longer funny. It's no longer it's no longer just like sometimes the jank is kind of appropriate, but other times it's kind of like okay, this is just because they're in a rush to film a video.
I think Scrapyard Wars is a perfect example of like a perfectly appropriate level of jank, where it's like it's janky, but it's because they have to.
Yeah.
And it works. It's funny. Or like some of the bigger projects they did, like the like some of the more crazy stuff. Even though it was like more clickbaity, I guess it was like there was jank, but it was like jank. It had its purpose.
Yeah.
But I think when it was janky to the point of like, oh, well, this is a thing for this thing, but whatever, we haven't got it. Or like, oh, we ran out of time to do all these proper tests, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, which I don't think there was much of. It was more just like the videos. I think the review side of things, I don't think they had that mentality for the reviews. I don't see the reviews as being the review accuracy problems being jank. I genuinely do think that's or because of rushing. I genuinely do think that's because of a growing pains thing. And while they might not have handled it excellently, I there wasn't anything in the Gamers Nexus video. In short, there wasn't anything that was raised in the Gamers Nexus video that I thought was okay, I'm going to stop watching LTT.
I don't know about you, but I think even some of the stuff, and like I watched the video and I thought like it was well put together, like argument, but I think even some of the stuff that they raised as like a glaring omission.
Yeah, I think some of it was a bit nitpicky.
It's like, yeah, even stuff that they said like, oh, this was a glaring mistake that they had to correct with an annotation or something like that, or like, oh, one of the benchmark numbers was off, it's a glaring omission. It's like, I don't know, it felt a bit like they'd maybe it's like, you know, when you get asked to like assess another company's work in your job.
Yeah, it's
like,
almost like you've created the narrative before you look at the data.
You go in and you're looking for problems, right? So like any little thing that they do wrong, you're not applying it through the lens of like, oh, okay, I can see how this may have happened if they were rushing, or like, oh, okay, I can see how I would have made this mistake. You're kind of going and saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And it's like, yeah, you got a point, but
I think they needed a wake-up call. I think, I don't necessarily know that I would attribute the problems to malice.
Oh no, absolutely not.
I think negligence is the word of the day.
And I think a lot of it was just people that like, you know, genuinely, if you were like an editor, there's a good chance that you wouldn't necessarily like spot a number that to like a real hardware enthusiast would be like, that number's out. Whereas like if you were like, it's not your job as an editor to be the like testing methodology person as well and be like, oh, that number's miles off.
So,
or even see it as like something to flag either. Like some of the stuff that Gamers Nexus pointed out, I'd be like, wow, if I was editing that episode, I would have missed that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think it all comes down to processes, and I think having worked for a couple of companies going through a similar growth period to what LMG are going through, I can see how even with the best intentions these things happen, because it's inevitable. It's just going to happen. And it doesn't make people bad people. It's an adjustment going from being a small business to a small to medium sized business. So like it is like a massive change in mentality and how you. So yeah, and
I got a bit of a hot take on that.
I think
a little bit of a hot take.
Okay, go on.
Would you like to? So you know how like a lot of people have been saying like, oh, it was, and like a big thing that they've done has been like on processes and stuff like that. I almost wonder, and this could be like complete load of bollocks, but I almost wonder if like some of their problems that they had were because of too much process. Because I almost felt when I watched some of their later reviews, they felt quite formulaic to me. Like, okay, host piece to camera, B-roll section here, graphs here for these 5 games. And I get it in terms of like a review perspective, and this could be like a terrible take in that that regard, but like I almost wondered if it got so process heavy that there was no one kind of going in there and kind of making points in the video that would like validate it, or if they like got too rigid in how they did it.
I don't know, to be honest. I think you have to have processes.
That's true, yeah, and you need to. It was probably more.
Once you're more than like a team that all sits in the same room.
Yeah, it's like what? Yeah,
you have to start having processes, because there's too many moving cogs for you.
Yeah, there's too many people.
Yeah, there's too many people. Everyone to just be on the same page, because everyone overhears every single conversation because they're all sat in the same room together.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I rescind that. That was foolish. But yeah, so you watched the Gamers Nexus video. You've never been more angry in your whole life.
No, I was like, okay, I am gonna be. I'll be. I'll feel it. I feel it would be disingenuous for them to not address this. This video. But I was fully expecting. Okay, well, you know, historically, they've always kind of gone right. Yeah, okay, we're holding our hands up. We've clearly dropped the ball here.
Soz.
Here's what we're going to do about it.
Even Trust Me Bro.
Yeah, because there was a precedent for that, and I don't I actually, with it, to be honest, I think, like I say, I think again the trust me bro thing was, I think,
it was a little bit cringe.
Yeah, it was a misstep, but also the intention behind it, like, it was the wrong move. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I didn't for a second think, and I still, even now, even with what I'm going to say in a little bit, I don't think that they would even without a warranty, I do believe that they would have made it right if there was anything wrong with the backpack.
The people saying that it was like...
They absolutely would have done, because it would be fucking like corporate suicide to not.
Right? I think the people that were saying like, oh, this is them weaseling out of it again, it's like, can you imagine, like, all it would take is one person with like even a mid-sized following, like, oh, I ordered an LTT backpack, it came defective, they wouldn't accept it, the RMA. It's like, that's an absolute disaster. Like,
yeah.
You can see the view, like, you could see someone making that as a viral video. And
yeah,
like,
there's so much more riding on it as a quote-unquote influencer. I hate that word, but anyway. Launching a product like that, especially when they go so hard on, like, we love our community, we respect our community, we're the good guys, we do the right thing, and
everyone,
and, you know,
like,
and, you know, and also historically having the I think having the evidence there to back that up. Like, I think they do have the evidence to back it up until recently.
Yeah, I think anyone. Yeah, that was such a, like. Yeah. Oh, look at them trying to. Get, yeah. It was. Yeah.
I think
like,
anyone who was arguing that it was wrong, and they should put it in. It should always have been put in writing, because that's the proper way to do things. But I don't think it was a malice thing and them trying to screw. I think anyone arguing that is either delusional or arguing in bad faith.
Yeah, they're just looking for a reason to, beat them with a stick on that one. It's like, come on.
Yeah,
dude.
It's just a way to get views or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I've not been on the LinusTechTips forum very often in years. I've never really been on the forum that much, to be honest. So I was completely unaware of the forum post that happened. The next thing I know is the video from LMG. So what do we do now?
Yeah.
So I watched that, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay. It was a bit corporate, but I guess we'll see what happens. Then I think I'm not quite sure. I think I kind of went on. I think I just went on the forum. I think I watched a few videos reacting to it. I think one of the videos mentioned this forum post that Linus. So I went on the forum to look at kind of, what the rest of the community were thinking. I found Linus's take, which at the time I was kind of like, okay, this is fucking awful. This is an awful take.
This is when you shredded your shirt and mailed it back to him piece by piece.
I read it again just before this podcast, and I think this is why I brought up the 5 stages of grief thing, because I think I went from, at the beginning, when I was I don't think I necessarily had I think I went straight into emotion, anger. I felt like super betrayed, basically.
Did you go full on like Eminem Stan, like ripping the posters down?
I wouldn't say it, yeah. And then I was in full on
Please
rage.
Don't call up wondering why. No, sorry, no.
And then obviously the whole thing with Madison then came out as well.
Yes.
Which I found out about through the forum. Which
that was like the day after that was like the day after, wasn't it? The video they dropped, or like 12 hours after the video they dropped of the What Do We Do Now?
No, What Do We Do Now came out.
That was it. Was just before.
Literally just after Madison posted
that's
that,
right.
I think. So
yeah,
a load of people were like, how could they not address that? It's like, do you have any fucking idea how video production works?
Like, that would have been scheduled, like
they shot this like yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. They had enough
like,
people.
I mean, if it was a fast turnaround, they shot it 6 hours ago and it's just been finished editing, it's been approved, and now it's uploaded.
Even then, with the number of people that were in it, it's pretty plausible that it could have even.
I mean, they turned it round really fucking quickly. I think it was like either just over or just under 24 hours after the Gamers Nexus video dropped.
Yeah, so it's like someone's obviously like got the, and the fact that it had all of, it wasn't just Linus, it was like Linus, Yvonne,
Like
Terran,
all
it
the
was, like,
heads
Luke.
of teams,
Yeah,
basically.
there was a lot of people involved in that, and like even some people who aren't necessarily always on camera, like the
and they had to script it, they had to shoot it, they had to edit it, it had to go through legal, probably.
Even getting all those people involved, it's like, like
it's a long
people.
process, and so fair enough that they weren't able to address it in that video. I think that's understandable, really. I don't think that was out of a specifically trying to crush that. However,
there would have been that upload would have already been scheduled, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, anyway, yeah. So the Madison thing came out. Then following on from that, then there was the TechTechPotato video, which sadly less people have watched, which I think is probably the most level-headed take on the whole thing. It's quite long.
It's a very good like summary of what happened.
It's an hour and a half long, but I think it's a very good summary. It rightfully calls out Gamers Nexus on some things, and rightfully calls out Linus Media Group on plenty of things as well. And yeah, I think it's probably as close to an objective reaction to the whole thing that you're gonna get. That calmed me down a bit, I think, seeing that.
One important thing with that is that he doesn't go into any info on the Madison allegations.
Other than he does say, he does go into it. Other than basically saying, like, if you're saying 2 years, now? You're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that was very good, actually. Yeah. That's not to make it sound like he brushed it off or ignored it. Like he did acknowledge it. He just didn't go into any further detail on it, which would have been, obviously, that's not to make it sound like he just ignored it. He did acknowledge it really well, actually. The bit about like if you're saying it was why now, fuck off or whatever.
He literally said you're a fucking idiot.
That was,
which in his very British
considering
accent
how level the
brilliant.
whole rest of the video was. That was great.
So I think I'm in acceptance right now, but I think the reason I put this in the topic doc is now obviously they're back now. And I watched their first video, and then I found myself watching the WAN show, and I was kind of like, oh my god, they're back. I watched the first Tech Link episode back, and it was kind of like, feels like it was like putting a comfort blanket back on.
Yeah.
Then I reflected on it, and I have made the decision that I am not watching any of their content until there is a conclusion to the Madison situation.
Yeah, it's So I'm in a similar boat, I think, in terms of I don't know about you, but the WAN show for the ages, like the first one back.
Yeah.
That to me left me with a little bit of a sour taste, which is why I turned it off after about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Because I was like, and I from what I saw, I turned the chat off when I watch it because
I did briefly look in the chat, and there was quite a lot of messages that literally were just saying Madison, Madison, Madison.
Yeah, that's that's a little bit of an immature response in terms of they have put out.
I think the reason they were doing, to be honest, I think the reason they were doing it is because, like, reading forum posts, there was a lot of speculation that they were going to block the word Madison.
Oh,
so I think they were trying to see whether they had.
Either way, it's serious allegations, and like it needs a serious investigation into it. Like these things do take time. But it just, I don't know. I don't really know how else they would have played it, but it just felt to me a little bit like shrugging it off a little bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It was just a bit like, it was a bit
they didn't really fully acknowledge it, really.
They didn't really fully acknowledge anything, really. It was just kind of like, hey, we're back.
Yeah.
Haha. I don't know, it just left me feeling a bit weird on it. I was like, you know what I feel like it really needed, actually, is at the start of the last episode that you published of this podcast, and you did that like 2 minutes at the intro where you were like, hey, I'm talking about LTT here, this is before the allegations, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
If that WAN show would have had like, I don't know, 2 minutes of Linus saying, hey, we're not going to be addressing this, this is pre-recorded Linus, whatever, we're not going to be addressing the Madison situation today, here's why, the investigation is still ongoing, we're still awaiting the findings, we're still committed to being transparent about sharing it all with the community when they're ready, but these things take time to do properly. So just bear with us on that. Okay, thanks, on to the WAN show.
Yeah, and the fact that they didn't even mention that in that video either, like, here's what we're going to do. I feel I get it to a degree, because that was kind of separate to the reason for taking the two. Process. It's kind of like a separate issue to the taking a break to sort the processes out.
Yeah.
But also, it was like such a big part of the community outcry that, like, to be honest, for me, that's the entire controversy, is that part.
Yeah,
of it. Like,
same.
The Billet Labs thing, pretty shit. Clearly a terrible kind of misjudgment. And I'm not ready to write Linus off because of that, because I mean, we all have emotional reactions when, I mean, I can understand it. Like, I know I have irrational, unjustified emotional reactions to things when people accuse me rightfully of things sometimes.
It was just
because I like to think that I like to think that I'm always kind of trying to do the right thing. So if someone calls me out for doing the wrong thing, I think it's such a part of my identity that I kind of like, it's like, whoa! Sometimes.
When someone says that Ethan doesn't know all the iPhone models.
Yeah, well, I actually
detail.
don't. I have actually lost track. I'll hold my hands up. And there was a time.
Hey guys, this isn't what do we do now?
I don't think it was that impressive of a skill, to be honest, because the iPhone product range was pretty simple. There was like 2 SKUs a generation for quite a long time.
Well, we're going to be stopping production on the Scrambled Checksum podcast indefinitely until Ethan has gone back and learned all of the iPhone models.
All I'm saying, it's not like Samsung where they've got the A series, the S series, the freaking...
the Samsung A, the Samsung...
yeah, the now they've got the Z series, and freaking there's another series as well. It's like the poor cousin of the A
we'll
series.
Also be putting Ethan on a course to learn all of the Samsung models. But yeah, it just felt a bit like, yeah, I get totally what you're saying, because to me that's the controversy for me at the moment. It's not like it's very different being like, oh, okay, we screwed up our processes, our video production methodology was a little bit rushed, we're a growing company. It's like, here's what we're going to do, we're stopping production, whatever. That to me is like, yeah, okay, yeah. Fair enough.
I think even the Billet Labs thing, like, it was really bad what happened there. Like, the review of it was shockingly bad. I was kind of like, when I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, well, that's shit. But I didn't realize Billet was a startup company. I thought they were just... I didn't really clock that for whatever reason. That's seriously going to put you off, isn't it? If you're a smaller company. Yeah, and I think that was really bad and really wrong, because that kind of thing, when a big voice says something like that, is like they said, that's a sink your company moment, basically. Even if it's not true, people are gonna, like I say, like LMG have a credible voice in the industry that they've earned. So yeah, as soon as someone says, and it's like not even giving them a fair shot. I think you really need to, you've got a responsibility if you've got a platform of that size. Yeah, exactly. That's you've hit the nail on the head there. Responsibility, absolutely. Like Nvidia, like if you make a mistake with an Nvidia graphics card review, it's like they got enough marketing budget to drown you out. Like even if you're the size of LTT, it's like ultimately it doesn't matter. No, if they say an Nvidia card is, oh, we don't think this card's very good, or oh, we got the performance numbers out by 5% on this card. It's like, it's not going to... No, however, if they decided to shit on one of the, like unjustly shit on one of the smaller board partners, that would be pretty good. Exactly. But, or like if someone's made like a very limited run product and sent them, like, again, a prototype. It's the other thing you got to bear in mind. It's like, well, I think from what I've understood, like one of the only prototypes, which I don't know, may have been a miscalculation on their part. I don't think I would do that, but that's besides the point. I think it's just a shitty thing to do. Yeah, it was, but I don't think it was done out of malice. And that was, you could see the like
the wheels of where that went wrong, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, there's no clear like process here of where to put these products that we need to send back, and
I think there is a saying, never attribute to malice that can be attributed to incompetence. I think that's a bit too black and white, but I would say be careful attributing to malice what can be easily attributed.
Yeah, I don't think Linus was sat there in his mansion like cackling away to himself.
I mean, like, what you've just got to, all you've got to do is look at it and go, well, I don't like, what would he have to gain by sinking the company? What would he have to gain by publishing the video? I think like there was a kind of like, we want to get the there was definitely a we get the video out the doorism going on there, but I don't.
Yeah, and I think he was like, oh, you know what? I don't like the product. It sucks, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I don't entirely disagree with him that I do agree that you shouldn't buy that product if what you're looking for is value for money, but the kind of people who buy those sorts of products aren't. And I actually know some people have taken issue with him saying I misread the room. I don't think that's a problem. I think he did misread the room. I think that is what happened. Like, he misread the audience for that, or the market for that product. I don't know how he did that, but he did. Like, I shouldn't buy it. You shouldn't buy it. But if you got money pissing out your arsehole, then, and you're looking for things to blow money on, you're a PC enthusiast, fuck it, why not?
If anything, you'd think he'd be I mean, you've seen how many overkill stuff he's spent way too much money on. You'd think, if anything, he would have read the room absolutely spot on and been like, this is an amazing product, you should all buy it.
But he has also always been an advocate for bang for the buck when it comes in terms of editorially. So
that's true, editorially.
Yeah. So anyway, the Billet Labs, again, I think a learning point, a very bad mistake, but I agree, a mistake, not a...
But there's a big difference between that and, like, a culture of, like, sexual harassment.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think that is absolutely the catcher. It's like...
That's not growing pains. Something's wrong.
It looks really bad.
You can't... There's no, like... You were saying about which is a really good point about like, don't put it down to malice if it can be put down to incompetence. But, like, that's something that you cannot in any way put down to incompetence. That's just...
Yeah, if someone reports being harassed, sexual or otherwise, in the workplace, that should be taken absolutely at face value and a thorough investigation should be conducted. If it finds that person's making shit up, fair enough. But the thing that concerns me, and sorry, Kieran, that I've not really let you get a word in edgeways, but I've been stewing on this for so long.
That's right. You're feeling the hurt.
Yeah, I've been stewing on this for a few weeks now. And like, clearly, an investigation didn't take place, and it was just dismissed, because if an investigation took place, why does an investigation need to take place now?
Yeah, why is there not an existing investigation that they can just make the results of?
And that's the other problem. Like, even if they find nothing, why wasn't the investigation conducted 2 years ago? Why is it only being conducted now when it's become a PR issue?
And why is it now when it's going to be a lot harder to investigate, I assume, because it's such a long time has passed. And there's a lot of worrying things that have come out about it, like the fact that they were clearly aware that something wasn't right because of that meeting that got filmed. So it's like, okay, if there was something not right enough that you had to have like everyone together for a meeting about what's acceptable and what isn't, clearly there was some kind of knowledge that something wasn't right somewhere. So was it just a case of, we move on from it now? It's a bit... That's what really troubled me about it. It's like, you can't just say I didn't know at all, which is bad enough.
Yeah.
It's like, did you know that something was not right and you didn't look into it, and then now you are because it's a big public issue?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I think that's where they went wrong, I think. They've been making a lot more videos than we have. But just, for what it's worth, I think that's where they went wrong, is that one show when they came back, and that's where I got 10 minutes in and I was like, this feels really weird. They're just kind of like back now, but nothing at all was said. And I get it. I wasn't expecting them to start it and spend half an hour addressing it, because it could well be too soon. The investigation hasn't been completed. There's a lot to do with that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I think the right thing to do is to not talk about it other than, But
there was just no acknowledgement whatsoever. I think they would have, put a lot of people's minds at rest if it just felt a bit like they were hoping that if they just didn't talk about it, and it could be wrong, but it just felt a bit like it was kind of, oh, okay, well, we've said this post about it on the community post as well. Yeah. It's never been mentioned in a video.
No.
So already I'm thinking like there's
been
less
community
visibility.
Post and X'd, or formerly Twitter.
So it's like already that kind of is downplaying. And again, I could be wrong, but like that feels a bit weird to me. It's
I mean, that's pretty standard, I think, for how companies tend to deal with it. It doesn't make it right, but it's pretty standard.
No, but even they could have reiterated it in that second video they made of like, oh, on an update, we are still as per our community post, because it feels a bit like, it's like when people correct something, but they only put it in the bottom of the description because no one ever reads it.
Yeah.
It feels a bit like, well,
if anyone calls us on not acknowledging this, we can point to this as evidence, but we don't want to draw any more attention to it than is already on it.
Then we absolutely, it's like when you have to, it's like when a manufacturer has to do like a recall, or like they have to issue a statement that they fuck something up, and they have to take out like a ad about it, and they do it like really small and like minimize the prominence of it.
Yeah.
It felt, and I could be wrong, and they could be doing like an incredibly expensive and time-consuming and thorough investigation, which is what it warrants. But to just kind of not say anything at all on the one show, it felt a bit like they were erring towards, well, we've put out our post, and now we don't need to ever talk about it again until maybe we put out another post in 6 months.
Yeah. I think it brings up another really interesting question for me, though, as well, which is more of not specifically related to this. What would it take to what would it take for you to, if they come out, if the result of the investigation is there was no wrongdoing on the part of the board, their HR or whatever, what would it take for you to trust that finding?
Is that to say there's no wrongdoing on the part of anyone, or is that to say?
Well, no, on the management structure. If they come out and say, yeah, okay, we've found that an employee did do these bad things and they have been dismissed and are facing whatever other charges that are out of the hands of the company or whatever, then, but the board actually weren't actually aware of it, or the extent wasn't, the evidence is that the extent of the problem wasn't actually raised with them.
Like what would it take for me to kind of trust
what would it take for you to go, okay, yeah, I believe that that is what happened, and like what would it take for you to trust that finding?
Think if that's carried out in like an independent investigation, they make public who carried out the investigation, I would trust that as a finding. But I think if they put out a statement to kind of try and say that the board or whatever didn't do anything wrong, then I think that if there's some kind of wrongdoing like to that extent going on, and they just say, oh, we completely weren't aware, then I think at that point I'm thinking you need to take you have to take some responsibility for that. Like
that's the thing, though. If they were aware, if they were aware, then I don't think I can ever go back to watching.
I don't think. I think it's a fine line between like they could be. If they were far enough to, if it depends on the situation, right? We'd be kind of speculating on like some kind of finding, but I think
this is purely speculative at this point.
Yeah. I think if it came out that there was some wrongdoing, the employee had been dismissed when they found it, they're under investigation. I think as long as they at least took some responsibility that they had allowed that to happen. Not to say that they were aware of it. If it was like, I don't know, we investigated, but we screwed up because we didn't investigate thoroughly enough, or we trusted what that person told us, or that person misled us in some way. That's we hold our hands up that was wrong, that we, didn't investigate thoroughly enough at the time.
Yeah.
That would be the only way that I could kind of accept that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's reasonable.
I think if they came out, I think to me, best case scenario, well, not best case scenario because it would mean that there'll be some terrible shit that had gone on, but like, assuming,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think their best possible course of action would be I think already they've kind of screwed up in not acknowledging that the investigation's still ongoing, and not like, I'm not saying they have to start every WAN show with like a 10-minute, here's where the investigation's at, because I know these things are, they get into legal grey areas of where you can't.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think they can legally talk about it.
No, and like, I'm not, like, the people that are kind of asking for that level of detail, I think, honestly, are just being unreasonable, because these investigations do need to be thorough, and like, by extension, you can't do a thorough investigation and even if it's to the extent of you make the person that you're investigating aware of what you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not expecting that, but like, I think it just could have done with the first WAN show back and that first video back. They at least acknowledged and echoed what they'd said in the post, that like, this investigation was still ongoing. And I think the only possible like course of action where I could see them kind of reestablishing credibility is saying, we were growing too much, we were overstretched, this was terrible that we, this happened, first of all, and the person who was responsible, we've turned over all the evidence we found to the relevant people, we've dismissed them immediately, we've investigated everyone else we've checked in with everyone else who reported to them to make sure this wasn't an ongoing issue with other people. We've reached out to people who were managing them and, established why they didn't raise it. It's that kind of stuff, right? That kind of level of...
Yeah. I did think it was interesting because, they did semi-address it, I guess, without saying it in the video, because they did go into like their employee turnover rate, and they did address that they believed that they needed to increase mental health support.
That to me felt a bit like that felt more like a kind of that employee that actually really that grated on me a little bit, because I was like, here we go, they're trying out the employee retention stuff.
Yeah, it is a cliche, but also that's got to mean something, right?
I don't know, I was almost wondering if it's like I don't know, I could be being unfair to them, but it felt a bit like, our little club that we've got here, they're all happy. I don't know. And it felt a bit like they were kind of using that as a thing of pride. That they...
Well, I don't know. It is quite hard. I think it is quite uncommon to have a low turnover rate, though, in the modern world of work.
Oh, definitely. And it was like, I'd understand it if they were just addressing the kind of video turnover, because it's like, oh, hey, our staff aren't as burnt out as you all think they are because, their retention's low. But I think they could have done that with just that video they showed of the car park over a week.
Yeah.
But like, I think bringing out your retention stats, that felt a bit like an HR video of like, hey guys, look, I know you've heard some stuff about some people that used to work here, but, just to bust out our retention stat, as you can see, because it's like, well, yeah, if you've got a workplace where everyone's the same and like anyone whose face doesn't fit comes in and then gets pushed out in short order,
that's a good point.
It's like, of course, the people who all fit in and they're all the same are going to be happy because they've got their own little club formed, but like, if anyone new that comes in and gets immediately pushed out, then it's like...
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I
noticed as well, they didn't bring out anything... Well, it could just be... This could just be like a random thing, but like, and it could be that their stats on it are really good, but they didn't bring out like, of the people that left, what the average like time spent with the company was.
Yeah.
So like, only 7% of people left this year, or whatever it was. And of those people, they all had an average tenure at the company of 2 years. It's like, that then is, okay, people are obviously, but if that would have been like, oh, okay, their average, if you leave us, your average time with the business is 2 months.
Yeah.
Then that doesn't sound so great, because it's like, yeah, you've got this group of people who all aren't leaving, but anyone new that joins and doesn't get it fit in disappears within 6 weeks, then you've got a bit of a problem.
I would argue, outside of the context that actually most employees don't work for a company for more than a year in general these days, or at least younger employees anyway. Historically, if someone only worked for you for 2 years, that's probably not a good sign. But I think that seems to be kind of the norm these days, doesn't it? But I think you have that is actually a very good point though that you raised there. I think it's that is actually quite a glaring omission, and it's quite. This is quite a good lesson though as well in like, well, there's that whole saying, isn't there? There's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics.
Yeah, right.
And statistics, if you omit part of them, can say anything.
Yeah, and it's like
you need all the data available to draw it's not to say that statistics don't have their place, but if you deliberately omit information from them, they can be misleading.
Yeah, it's not like I could be wrong. It could be that they've got like an amazing statistic there, but it's just, if you're going to quote stuff like that to back up your point, I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a... It's
a bit disingenuous, I think, to not include
It felt like a bit of a corporate take of...
It was, hey, but I think the whole video was quite corporate take, though.
It was. I'm not going to rake them over the coals for being too corporate, because they are pretty large organisation now, but yeah, it did feel a bit like...
I mean, how else can they respond to something like that other than... I don't think there is a perfect... such thing as a perfect response to that. There's always going to be some omissions. I mean, yeah, but you do also have to put it through the glass of, okay, this is a corporate video, so it's, taken.
There's always going to be people as well who are completely like even disregarding even if you only looked at the video quality stuff. There's people that as soon as they heard that, they would just immediately be like, oh, you guys suck, I hate you forever. And then everything they do from that point onwards, they're just like looking for any little, like any error that they make ever again in the future. They'll be like, oh, look, you guys suck. It's like,
God, can you imagine just making base assumptions about something just purely due to the logo that's on it? Like, whew, I would never do that about a company like Apple, for example.
Yeah, right.
Or Samsung.
Yeah, can you imagine generalizing a whole group of people just because of the phone that they use?
Yeah, God. You'd have to be a completely arrogant piece of scum.
I think as well they're not helped by the fact that they were so critical of so many companies.
Yeah, it was a bit of a double standard, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then, but I hope that they, I'm not sat here wishing to see everyone who works there.
My only hope, I think, is I want justice to be served.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. I don't.
Someone has, because I can totally imagine it. I can totally imagine a situation where it's like there's a ton of like everything in Madison's allegations to me. I was like, I can totally imagine this happening, like 100%. You got like a group of awkward dudes, and like the whole thing about like, oh, if you have a disagreement, take them for a date.
Yeah, that's
horrible.
Yeah, well, it was that they kept kind of making suggestive comments or something, didn't they? And then it was
and it's like the worst part is I can 100% like imagine that happening, which is shit.
I can also imagine it being said as a joke and being misconstrued if...
That's just not appropriate, though. Like, you shouldn't be...
But that's the kind of thing you joke about with a friend, and, like, there's an you guys are on the, like, understanding level that is the sense of humor that you both share, and it's like gallows humor kind of thing. It's not the kind of thing you just say to a random person in the office.
Yeah, that's completely.
Yeah,
Well, if you're
just,
saying
like
that
you say, it's just inappropriate, isn't it?
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that, and obviously the fact that it was repeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
allegedly.
People. Yeah, I can 100% believe that.
Yeah, I think also, I guess on the flip side of that, you have to be careful with, just because it sounds plausible doesn't mean it's true.
But that is, you can't. I just don't see why you. First of all, I don't. Yeah, I can 100% see that happening.
Yeah, I can say. Yeah, I can totally see it happening as well.
We'll see.
I have no reason to believe that Madison is lying, but I also have no reason to believe that she's telling the truth. I don't have any basis.
I don't see any reason at all. Like, if anything, I think the easier option for her would have been to not say anything.
Yeah.
Because it's like all those fucking idiots that are like, oh, she said it for clout. It's like, what? She said it to get
I think it's likely that she's telling the truth. All I'm saying is, like, I don't know her. I don't follow her stuff. I have nothing to go on to judge her character. Is all I'm saying. I just
don't see, like, can you imagine, like, those people are like, oh, she made it up to get clout. It's like, is that really? Like,
I mean, it could happen. I'd say it's the least it's the lesser. Like, if we're putting it on if you're putting it out a percentage chance that that's the case, I'd say there's like 90 to 95% chance, possibly like 99.9999 chance that she's telling the truth.
Yeah, because like, who's making that up to get like a ton of harassing messages on all of their social medias, like, for months?
But it's not unheard of.
I just don't. I don't see it. And
I think it's wrong to dismiss it as that.
No, you have to assume that it's true.
Yeah,
and
but
investigate.
But equally, it's not. It's wrong to harass someone saying those things, but it's not necessarily implausible that that's the case. I'm not saying I believe that that's what the case is, but people do fucked up shit in all kinds of ways, and claiming to be the victim of a horrendous crime that other people genuinely have suffered. Some people do fucking do that sort of shit.
But if you're LMG, you have to assume that's 100% true and investigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, That whether you believe that it's true or not, the right move is to investigate it.
And it sounded at first like that's what they were doing, but yeah, we'll see what the investigation...
Well, yeah, I do believe that they are investigating it. My only concern is that I just don't know how they could not have known about it.
Yeah, that's
based on everything. And if they did know about it, I can't think of any plausible reason why they wouldn't have investigated it 2 years ago, other than they thought they got away with it, which is awful.
And what's worrying to me is, like, the only possible way that they could have is if they'd have immediately come out and said, hey, yeah, we did know about that. We dismissed all of the people involved in it that we identified at the time. We just didn't feel that we could talk about it for whatever reason.
Didn't think it was appropriate to, yeah.
Yeah.
But then they did address it. There was that post from Linus, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly. So they can't say that, but yeah, that would have been the only way they could have maybe, said, oh yeah, we actually did address it at the time, but we didn't feel that we could, release it publicly, and we didn't feel that it was appropriate to drag Madison back into it to tell her that this is what had happened. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, that hadn't happened, obviously. So we will see. We'll see if Ethan's LTT store merch ends up.
Here we go. This is interesting. So there was a reference to the glass door review of LMG.
Oh yeah.
And there was a lot of speculation a while ago that this review came from Madison, and she's then said that it was her social media coordinator. Pros. A lot of talented people employ a lot of talented people, employee bonding activities. Cons: no proper / or explained HR system, sexist remarks, coded language, harassment were commonplace, inappropriate action, and then you can't read the rest because
you have to register it. But obviously, they would have been aware of that.
There's actually a couple of not so super hot reviews at the top. Not as good as I hoped. Pros: good people, work with cool tech, sometimes fun group activities. Cons: middle management that micromanages, focuses only on growing productivity, not growing people. Feels like there's no career. ... That was shooter/editor. Editor: terrible. Pros: networking, exposure, experience, mushrooms. Mushrooms and Daddy Linus and things of that nature.
That sounds like a freaking meme.
Yeah. Cons: connections, platforming, break room, carrots, all of the above.
That sounds like a load of old bollocks.
Yeah.
That sounds like someone's like, oh, I work there at LTT.
Anonymous employee: genuinely the best job I've ever had. Pros: I've worked with a lot of soul-crushing jobs at companies I didn't care for, with co-workers and bosses that I hated for basically poverty.
That I hated for existing.
Yeah. And then you can't read the whole thing. Cons: I've had to crunch a handful of times in my years working here, but I was paid overtime and there was never any pressure that I... ...
What's after the ...
Who knows?
Answer us, Linus.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we've just spent an entire podcast talking about it when it was supposed to only be one topic. I felt like that was kind of inevitable and might happen, but...
Yeah, we'll see what they do.
We needed to address the elephant in the room, even if no one's listening to us.
Exactly. Even if the elephant won't address it themselves.
Yeah.
We can, we'll address it.
Yeah. So in conclusion, for the time being, we're both, I think, would it be fair to say we're both awaiting judgment?
Yes. I didn't used to watch them particularly often anyway. But yeah, I'll be following your path of, not watching any of their content until... I was an occasional WAN show viewer, to be fair, and LMG clips, so I'll be...
I was a religious WAN show viewer.
Yeah, you're a religious WAN show viewer, so we'll be holding off on watching that, and instead, switching to shameless self-promotion...
We'll be listening to our own podcast.
We'll be listening to our own podcast. We're now on our new schedule of every Friday.
At 5:30 East Coast time. No, West Coast.
Yeah, so
what's
that, like 2 a.m. UK time?
No, I think it's like 1:30 in the morning, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, screw the whole thing. We'll see you every other Monday.
Yeah,
at the usual time.
Yeah, never mind.
We don't have any employees, and we'll never get popular enough to have any employees.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
No worries
as SAMTIME said, you can't cancel me because you'd have to make me popular first.
That said, if you wanted to make us popular, if you like, comment, share, subscribe, rate on YouTube. All right, let me see if I can remember the platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Yep.
Google Podcasts. Deezer.
Never forget that. Google Podcasts. Audible, and
some others.
Yeah, any others that illegally repost our content. Don't forget to leave the comments, show your signs of support, so that we may continue to be the second most popular tech podcast in the world.
Yeah, and just to address it, yes, I am still using my LTT water bottle because despite the controversy, it still remains the best fucking water bottle I have ever had. And also, environment. I'm not going to just throw away a perfectly good water bottle because it has a brand logo on it that's controversial. The t-shirts, however, are a little bit more flashy and obvious. I've got the stealth water bottle, so I'm not going to be wearing those until such a time that there's a resolution to... and if I'm not in favour of them, those will... don't know what I'll do. I'll probably donate them to a charity that like shreds them.
I was going to say donating them. I don't agree with burning perfectly good clothing. But yeah, donating I think is the right approach. And if you'd like to donate to us, follow us on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think we're long overdue to stop. So
yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.
See you every other Monday. Bye bye.